All right, welcome to the first of its kind, world-changing manufacturers network. Lisa Ryan has her ears to the ground and her heart in the game. Get ongoing education and new connections right here with Lisa and the Manufacturers Network. Buckle your seat, listen, and spread the word. Here's Lisa.
Hey, it's Lisa Ryan. Welcome to the Manufacturers Network podcast. I'm excited to introduce our guest today, Noah Graff. Noah is the host of SwarfCast, a podcast that helps professionals in precision machining excel in their careers. For more than 10 years, he's been a used machine tool dealer, or treasure hunter, as he likes to call it, buying and selling used equipment all over the world. He's also a blogger and editor for the website Today's Machining World, directed at the precision machining community. So Noah, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. This is really fun. It's fun to be interviewed rather than always doing the interviewing. So
exactly. I think. Or so it seems right now. So share with us a little bit about your background and what led you to doing what you're doing.
Okay. One way you could put it would be nepotism. My grandfather, Leonard Graff, he started Graff-Pinker, our used machine tool business, about 80 years ago. And then my father and my uncle, they went into the business. And getting out of school, I was a film and history major. And my dad had started this blog. It was a print magazine, Today's Machining World. And because he was a journalism master's in college, and it had been always his dream. So he started this magazine about the machining industry. The precision machining industry is what we specialize in. And he said, this was like 2005. He's trying to lure me in, and he's, look, broadband is coming. We'll do video interviews, and he was totally right, but he was like, I don't know, 5 years a little too early. But I went in there and I started working with the magazine and editing and writing. And then about 2012 or 11, we decided print was dying. And so we decided we'd take the magazine all online, and I would join the treasure hunting business, and we would continue to blog, etc. And then about, I don't know, 5 years ago, started SwarfCast, the podcast, which is basically an extension of Today's Machining World. You might be wondering why we call it SwarfCast. The word swarf, I think it's actually a British word. It means the chips and the grime and oil that's in the belly of these machines, the machines we specialize in, screw machines, or other CNC machines too. So usually they'll have a chip conveyor at the bottom of the machine, or sometimes they call it a swarf conveyor. And so way back with the magazine and then the blog, we started calling it Swarf, like Swarf was our column, because it's sort of getting down and dirty into what's going on behind the scenes in the belly of the machine.
So with all of this work that you do around precision machining, what are some of the topics that you cover? You have a podcast and a magazine. Is there that much to talk about in precision machining?
I think there's a lot to talk about. And I feel like the podcast, we've tried to keep it a little bit more niche-y, but with the blog, it's a lot of all kinds of stuff that we just feel like our audiences would be interested in, everything from like politics and economy and even sports. My dad, he writes 50% of the blogs, and then I do a blog and a podcast every other week. But so it's a springboard for things, but there's all kinds of things to talk about. Lately, the issues on people's minds are workforce development, and always people are interested in technology. People are interested in company culture. And we come at it with a different slant because we are selling used machines to all of our readers, listeners. We have ears in it. We're just hearing everybody, what they're saying. And so it gives us an interesting viewpoint. And then we like to talk about dealer type of stuff, people who we've done deals with, machinery types of things that people are buying at the moment, trends we're seeing. Today, we published a blog about how we're helping certain companies buy and sell their companies when people have gotten older and they're wanting to sell out, or how some other companies, it's better to just liquidate their machines. That's another thing we do. We'll do auctions. And so that's the 1 minute, 2 minute scoop.
That's one of the things that I enjoy about both my speaking career and my podcast, is being around manufacturers and people who are passionate about things that nobody else on the planet ever thinks about. So to see that there's that much conversation around precision machining and really touching into that niche market is pretty cool. So when
a lot of people don't precision machining. It's sort of, for me, it's this normal thing because it's what I've always been around. But in case people need, it's specified. It's often metalworking, what we're talking about, and turned parts. We specialize in a specific kind of machine called a screw machine, and they have CNC screw machines and they have cam mechanical screw machines. And we actually specialize in the cam ones, which are great because you can just rebuild them over and over again. If a machine is from the 80s, that's a pretty young screw machine.
Oh, wow.
If I was alive while this machine was around and it's a cam screw machine, it's a pretty young machine in screw machine years. So some of them we're selling might be in the 60s. Like, that's not that crazy.
So when we talk about bringing younger talent and newer people into the industry in manufacturing, and you have these kids walking into the plant, seeing machines that are 60 years old, 50 years old, 40 years old, what is it that you can then convey to them about why that, I guess with all the automation and the new shiny toys that are out there, again, what is it about that you can continue to use equipment that's that old or young?
No, you raise a really good point. Getting people to use these machines is difficult. And the thing is, it's what people don't realize is these mechanical screw machines, these are perfect for making certain kinds of parts. These are meant for parts that you're making by the hundreds of thousands. And you can do a pretty precise job with them. And so you might buy one of these machines, you might pay 30 grand or 80 grand for one of these machines. If you wanted to buy the computer controlled version, you might pay $1 million. So if you're a company that needs to make 100,000 parts a year, you're caught in this weird spot where I don't have money to pay for $1 million for a CNC machine. And these other machines are going to be too slow, these CNC machines. So if they can find the talent, they want to buy these machines. But it is difficult to find young people that want to do it. I know one of our good customers, he has apprenticeship programs in his shop. And in the apprenticeship program, he actually pays more for the people that want to go and learn the mechanical screw machines. The machines are noisy. You're going to get dirty. And younger people, they want to push buttons and be in front of slick computers and screens and in cleaner shops that are quieter. And so it's a little harder, but there are certain people that they do fall in love with it. And it is possible to train people on these machines, but yeah, usually people want to do the most cutting edge technology, even if it may not be the thing that's going to make the company the most money. It's just depends on the route these companies are taking. But you're seeing a lot of them phasing them out, though. They can't because they just can't find the talent to run these machines.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that would bring up even things like the knowledge transfer of taking somebody who's been on that machine, who knows it inherently because they've been working on it and fixing on it for 30 years, and bringing somebody in and trying to teach that. How, besides the apprenticeship programs, are you seeing them do anything else, or is it just a luck of the draw that you find the right person who falls in love with it?
I think that my impression is, if you want to work in a machining company, even if you've gone to trade school, the only way to learn is to be in the shop, working on the machines in that environment. No matter who it is, they're going to have to get trained by somebody, but there's going to be less people around who will be there to train because everybody's retiring. I know we have at Graff-Pinker, because some of these machines, we will refurbish them and make repairs. And that's the great thing about mechanical machines. You can keep making repairs. And one guy is retired and he comes back just because he likes it. But that's what you're up against. People can't find enough workers who want to run the slick stuff, let alone the dirty stuff. So it's a tough situation. Yet, if you know how to do it, it can still be a great living.
Yeah, it just reminds me of the fixing old cars and old appliances versus fixing the new things where everything is computerized.
Exactly.
Basically takes a specialist to do. So I could definitely see that there's some saving grace as far as the mechanical.
Right. When there's no computers into it, think about it. Would you ever use a computer that was 20 years old? Could you even fathom? But these machines, some of the CNC machines, they're made so well that you can use a machine from year 2000 that has a computer. But that's a skill set for the people that are repairing them. And right now in our shop, we have a machine from 2007, and we have a guy, it's called an MCO CNC machine. And we have a guy from the OEM that came to repair it. And he's calling all around and trying to figure it out. It's an art to figure out an old computer.
Right. Barely have an iPhone for more than 3 years, much less a computer for longer than that.
And they won't repair the iPhone. They just say, we're done.
No, you pay $1,000 and it's disposable. So when it comes to workforce, though, so what are some of the trends that you're seeing people doing as far as attracting people, or once they get them in there, to keep them?
I think it's important for the industry on the whole and for society to make the manufacturing and the machining business seem cool, seem like a good career. But it's often more lucrative than doing something that you would spend a whole bunch of money at college to study. So I think that's the first thing. You're seeing, what I see is a lot of business owners, they get involved in the community, they get involved in schools, and they're gaining personally by it, and they're also just doing it as an altruistic thing. Were you just asking about young people, or were you asking about
anybody that you have, just workforce itself, because it's hard enough to find people right now to begin with. And then once you get them in there, it's essential that you figure out how to keep them, because they have lots of choices now as far as if they decide to stay with you or ghost you at lunch.
Well, actually, the interview that I'm publishing this week, I interviewed somebody on Sunday who is a recruiter specializing in manufacturing. And so we talked a lot about this. One of the things she says is, if you are a manufacturing company, you need to sell yourself. You need to like treat these employees as though they're a customer that you're trying to push yourself to. She said she's somebody people can go to find a recruiter that specializes in it. She also said doing networking, being on LinkedIn that's what she's doing a lot. That's a big deal. I think a lot of machining companies we talk to, they have the best results when their own people bring in other people. You can't always have that, but that's something important. As far as retaining and making your place attractive, I think it's a lot of what you're hearing other places too, of work-life balance, having better hours. Pay obviously is important, but everybody can offer that. I think the blue-collar industry by the hour, traditionally, I think the employee hasn't had that much control about what their hours are. It was just, this is what you do, and you work this many hours a day, and this is your overtime you can take. And now one of the companies I interviewed, a machining company, they have had a lot of luck retaining and getting employees by giving people flexible hours, saying, oh, you coach your son's team, so okay, you can work these hours, you can work earlier and get off later, or you have to take your son or daughter to daycare, so you can come in at X time. Or maybe they'll hire a student who can only work part-time. They're a heck of a talent, so they'll let them do that. They'll hire them even though they know maybe they'll leave. And sometimes those are the best possible people. I think the key is to have an open mind.
Yeah, exactly. There were a couple things that you said that stood out. Number one, during the interview process where you are selling them. There's no way that they are selling you on their skills and everything, because we have to bring sexy back to manufacturing and let people know the benefits of it. There's a lot of people out there that are looking for opportunities. I have one of my clients, and what they have in their yard is their signs, is one of the biggest signs that they use is work with your hands, really focusing on people that get that intrinsic joy from working with their hands and getting into that. The other thing that I think really shows with manufacturing is the work-life balance, not only being open to the flexible hours, like you just said, that we really have to change our mentality of that. But if you think about machining, that's not something that can be done at home. So it's like at the end of the day, you have your time back. You're not working from home on the weekends and nights and all of these things. So it gives you a built-in opportunity to have the work-life balance while not having any student loan debt, and being able to do what you want and have a really nice career out of it. So it's interesting, just I think from the mind shift that manufacturers have to have, and the flexibility is definitely a huge one.
Yeah, but it's not, most of the time it's still not flexible.
Right.
I mean, and as you said, you have to go in, and I think that's a harder sell to people, probably because it takes a lot of time to go in, and people are very used to being at home now. So it's definitely a shift. I think in many respects, it's very healthy to go into a workforce and not see the world remotely days a week. I think it's a complicated issue, but.
And I'm hearing so many different ideas. We have the mom shift that I know a lot of manufacturers are talking about, and dads can do it too, but basically 10 to 2. So it's like the parents can get their kids off on the bus, then they go to work, and then
You're hearing about that elsewhere as well.
Oh yeah, the mom shift is a big one. I just spoke at FabTech, and one of the guys in my audience was saying
you spoke at FabTech?
Yes. Yeah, it was
wow, interesting.
I say that it's fab tech because it's fabulous. I love fab tech. But he actually said that because he has so many workers that get the benefits from their spouses, that they don't need benefits. And so what he did, and I'm not quite sure all the ins and outs, but basically he allowed people to work fewer hours, so 30-hour-a-week shifts without benefits because they got them from their spouse. And were able to go from a 5-day week to a 7-day week because employees had the fewer hours, they had more me time on their own. So it's just, I think you ask the questions that you never thought you...
Employees were working 7 days a week, or he just had shifts that were going 7 days?
He had shifts that went 7 days a week instead of 5 days a week. So he was actually able to increase his staff by 30% and yet decrease the amount of money he was paying for benefits. So it's an interesting concept, but again, you just think of things in ways that we wouldn't have to think before, because flexibility and manufacturing usually don't go into the same sentence.
No.
But if you say, how can I? The other thing too is half shifts of people saying, okay, we have a shift from 6 to 11. We have a shift from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. So just again, giving people shorter shifts, looking for ways to give them their time back, because that's, after 2.5 years of pandemic, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, everybody.
So are there any other trends that you're seeing as far as the technology or the workforce?
Sure.
That you've been highlighting?
As far as workforce again and technology, lots of people are talking about automating, putting in collaborative robots, cobots. I think that we're hearing a lot about reshoring and nearshoring, where work is coming, maybe not coming back to the United States, but it's coming back to Canada or Mexico. It's not necessarily that specific work that once was there is now here. It's more now they're quoting jobs and I'm getting a job now that would have been there. That's what I hear from companies.
Well, what about some of the global trends that you're seeing? So anything from across the sea, China, Europe, South America, Asia?
Sure. Traditionally, we've done a lot of business with Europe, buying and selling back and forth. And it seems like a little bit of a puzzle right now. Like, I hear things from places. I've heard Italy right now is slowing down a little bit. People are complaining about energy prices over there. Like, energy prices in some European countries are like 7 times what they are normally. I had it. Unfortunately, some of this stuff in my world, in the machinery dealer world, it can be a small sample size. I was talking to some people I knew in Germany who had this really expensive CNC multi-spindle they wanted to sell. And they were complaining that things have been a little difficult with their automotive and the energy prices. And then they're like, oh, sorry, the guy can't sell the machine. Now he's got too much work for it. He's got a job. Let's see, what else? We're about to buy some machines in Japan. We're pretty excited about that. Some CNC Swiss machines. These are it's a kind of screw machine. That market is still pretty crazy. If you can get one of these machines that new would probably be about 250,000. If you can get one that's 12 years old, you should at least get $100,000 for it, which is pretty good. That's making us go all the way to Japan to get these machines. We do crazy stuff like that. But of course, right as we were negotiating for the machines, the yen all of a sudden popped up like 4%. So a bit of our margin is shrinking, but still, so that's interesting. China, I mean, they're suffering because of the pandemic and different things that the government's done as far as shutting them down, et cetera. But in the interview that I just did this week, I was talking to a guy who sells Star Swiss machines, the same kind that this is like one of the name brands of Swiss screw machines. And he was saying that in China, they buy more machines in a month than they'll sell to the US in a year. That's how much they're manufacturing.
Wow.
Yeah, it kind of blew me away.
And are the machines that different? I mean, if you understand an American screw machine, is it pretty easy to pick up a Japanese or a German model, or is it a whole new learning curve?
Oh, no, the machines this guy was selling, this is a Star. These are made in Japan.
Okay.
A bunch of the machines. So this Swiss style screw machine, basically there's some of the main ones are from Japan. There's one from Korea. There's one from Switzerland, very famous. It's called Tornos. The reason they call it Swiss is because the people who invented this kind of machine were making watch parts in Switzerland. And they needed a specific machine that could make long, narrow, precise parts. The United States, they have a few machine tools that they make. Haas machines, those are very popular. They make them all over the place. There's a screw machine called a Davenport, that's one of the old school screw machines where I said you could sell a machine from the 70s and it would still be pretty good. They make these still. This is also called the machine that won World War II because it can just make parts. You can make one part in 2 seconds. If you ask anybody around the world, even people in Europe that are making really fancy machines, the Europeans make a lot of really expensive high-end screw machines. They'll say, no, this is the machine that won World War II.
So talk about that. That's really interesting. That's an interesting historical fact. So
sure.
Why did it win World War II?
That was the logical question. The reason it won World War II is because, as I mentioned, so this is a machine, it's called a multi-spindle. So these are the machines for making 100,000 parts a year or more. And normally they have 6 or 8 spindles, which is 6 lathes all in a row. And so they're all doing one piece of the part at the same time. So it can work super fast. This machine has 5 spindles. And meanwhile, the Germans, their machines were only 1 spindle. So we were popping bullets out 5 times as fast as they were. And I think, I'm not a historian, but I've read places that one of the reasons that the Germans lost was that they ran out of bullets. They were using wood bullets at the end of the war. So these machines, and they're still used now. And the design is almost the same as it was then. It's crazy. They still, wow. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's a nice little history lesson built into the podcast today. I did not know that. And with my husband being a World War II buff, I'm going to have some trivia
Ask
for
him
him
about
too.
Tell him the Davenport screw machine. Won World War II.
Won World War II. All right. As we start to get to the end of our time together, what would you like to leave the audience with as far as precision machining, what's interesting, what's happening, what you're excited about?
Oh, dude, I totally should have I need to come up with a canned answer because I always ask somebody like this. I always ask stuff like this in my podcast. So do you have anything else to say to the people of the world? That's what I always ask them. So you're asking, do I have anything specific to say about
that we didn't talk about that you want to make sure that you get out there?
Sure. I think that I'm going to echo what a lot of people tell me when I interview them in our podcast, that manufacturing industry in the United States is just tons of opportunities. You're looking for a place to find a career. There's a lot of opportunities if that's your thing, if your brain is made for that. And right now, Wall Street, Main Street, there's a lot of uncertainty out there, and it all does trickle down into manufacturing. But that said, the people in our industry, they're still very confident, and they're still need people and need machines. And most of them have not said, yeah, I'm losing all these jobs, I'm getting rid of stuff, we're getting conservative, we're ready to hibernate for the winter. People are a little cautious because they're hearing things, but people are staying aggressive. They're feeling very upbeat about where things are going. They generally have more work than they can handle. So that's great to see. And it's just interesting how the bankers and Wall Street and the newspaper, they're not exactly in sync with our world.
Exactly. If people did want to continue the conversation with you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
I think number one, I would love it if you guys checked out our podcast and website. So the website is todaysmachiningworld.com, and the podcast is SwarfCast. That's SwarfCast. So I think that could be interesting for people if they want to find me. I've been getting more involved in LinkedIn, Noah Graff. And go to todaysmachiningworld.com and you can find my contact info there and email me.
All right, awesome. Noah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. This was so much fun. I really appreciate it.
I'm Lisa Ryan, and this is the Manufacturers Network podcast. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Manufacturers Network podcast. Do me a favor and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues so we can grow this network and connect more fantastic folks just like you. You can either send your buddies to the website at manufacturers-network.com or share the Manufacturers Network podcast on your LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or wherever you and your industry friends hang out. The bigger and faster we grow the network, the stronger and deeper the community we'll all have. Thanks again, and I appreciate you.